Hello and welcome to 65 Wide. My name is Spencer Strikert and I am your host. This is a CFL podcast, and each week I'm going to get into some of the updates that have happened throughout the league. We'll talk about scoring from various games. We'll talk about other news that's happening in the league. I feel like, there's not a lot about the CFL in terms of media coverage. I think that there's a decent amount, but it's not as easy to find information about the CFL as it is a lot of other sports leagues and organizations, and I just wanted to do that. I think that it would be fun. It'd be fun to get to talk to some of these guys too. I just thought it'd be nice to have a podcast that I can just turn on the mic and just spew some shit. Just talk some smack, So if you don't know who I am an actor and comedian from Calgary, Alberta. I work at CKUA Radio as a host. I host a weekly show called On the Rise. It's the top 30 countdown show. And when it comes to football, I played high school football, and I'm currently playing senior men's ball. And it's interesting. It's fun getting back into the game as I'm now 30. I hadn't put on pads since I was 17 years old, and it's been a huge learning curve, to say the least. But my goal for this year is to just get really confident with my understanding of the game on an actual technical level, and also to get in shape while doing it. I think that it's easier to get in shape when you have a goal to do something with, like you have a goal, you have a set goal that you want to attain. It's so much easier to reach that goal, and it's easier to get in shape in the meantime. Speaking of the podcast though, if you are a fan of podcasts like, New Heights, this will be similar to that. I guess in a way, it'll be like that, except about the CFL. I might end up interviewing some NFL guys. I'd love to interview some people who have played in both the CFL and the NFL. I'd love to hear their perspective about what it's like playing in each league. And I think it would just be interesting to see where this podcast is going to go. I enjoy the medium of podcasting. I enjoy watching football. So this kind of seems like an easy thing for me to do. Everything will be from a fan perspective, though. If you're gonna, and I will have a lot of jokes about teams. If you're sensitive about that, I apologize. I'm gonna make fun of, the bad teams in the CFL, and there's a couple of them for sure. But speaking of New Heights, this will be very similar to that, where I'm going to do some league updates at the start of each episode, and then I'm going to interview a player. I think that that's the easiest way for me to do this. And I think it's going to be the most engaging way. I would love to know what people want to hear when I'm talking to players. I mean, I have a different style of interviewing than other folks do. And who knows? If this gets popular like New Heights, maybe I'll also leave my wife for a pop star. We don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see how success could change me, potentially. This isn't my first podcast. It's not my first rodeo, if you will. But it's not my first podcast. I hosted Misfits on Vinyl, which was a music podcast for a few years. So we're going to have similar style to that, just instead of being about music, it's going to be about football. I thought about, talking about the draft recap to start things off, because obviously it's the preseason. There's not a lot happening yet. We've had one preseason game, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. I did quickly look at the draft. I feel like there was nothing that hasn't been said before. I'm not going to be able to give you some insightful knowledge about the draft picks of the Ottawa Red Blacks in this year's draft, but I will say I did notice that in the first two rounds, Edmonton exclusively got defensive picks. They picked in the first round, they got a linebacker. Second round, they get a defensive back. They get somebody for their D-line. And I think, they're really hoping that this year they're not going to go 7-11. Which, ironically, is where half these guys are going to end up working after the preseason is over. I said it in my podcast description that there will be lots of jokes about Edmonton. I stand by that, and honestly, the league already does that to them. Like, they like I said, they went 7-11 last year. That's never great. That's never a good sign for an organization. Speaking of preseason games, I ended up going to the first game yesterday. It was the Stamps versus the Riders, and it was interesting to watch. I actually thought it was a good game. I know that a lot of people will say preseason games don't mean anything, and that's fair. But I think that it's actually such a good way to see who is going to potentially make a difference on the roster this year. I think that preseason games, especially those guys that were, drafted later on in the rounds, at a certain point in their career where they can't make these huge mistakes, they're going to go a little bit harder than other people. They're going to put on a show because they want to prove that they're going to be useful on the team. Thought was interesting about the Stampeders was their defense was super strong. I know last year it was a lot of rookies. This year there's a lot of returning guys. There's a few people that obviously were added to the roster that I think are going to make a huge impact, like Eric Roscoe, for instance. I mean, linebacker that's making a huge dent already. It was fascinating to watch just how held to nothing Saskatchewan was. I mean, it's not like offensively Calgary was doing anything insane. There was a couple of really cool plays. I thought Vernon Adams' pass to Philpott was great. It was a bomb. I was sitting right near that end zone, and me and my buddy Caleb were looking at that ball for what felt like 30 seconds it was in the air. At that point, too, a pick had already been thrown in the exact same place, basically the exact same play. And so we're watching this ball hang in the air for so long, and the entire time I'm just thinking, I could walk down, hop over the rail, and lightly jog onto the field and get to this ball, which the safeties were unable to do. So it ended up being the first score of the game, first touchdown. I will say, too, it was fun watching the scoreboard person screw up and give a rouge to Saskatchewan right off the top. I guess forgetting that that's no longer a thing, they punted the ball through the end zone and, automatically they put a point up on the board and then took it down. And it was kind of fun watching Saskatchewan lose a point in what was already about to be a blowout. I mean, Saskatchewan didn't even score a touchdown until the last drive of the game. Right at the end zone, run it in, QB run, and other than that, it was just a field goal game on Saskatchewan's end. There was not a lot happening. Obviously, Calgary, Love, he sneaks into the end zone right at the end of the second quarter. Great way to put them up 14-6 going into the half. It was a great game. It was a great turnout. There was a lot of folks there, and I think that as much as there's a lot of stuff changing in the CFL, one thing that I do like is that there's always going to be that community atmosphere when you go to a CFL game. And I think that that's what a lot of people are missing out. A lot of people, will talk about the CFL as being a lesser game than the NFL. And I don't really understand that personally because they're completely different games. And if you want to talk about a watered down lesser version of the game, there is the UFL. I've been trying to watch the UFL, waiting for the CFL season to start, and it's been a absolute slog. I don't know what the hell it is about the UFL, but that actually feels like a lesser version of college football. It feels like you're watching some FCS teams go up against each other. It's like the all-stars of the FCS every week with the UFL. And then it also feels like there's absolute cock teases of teams. Like I was following the Louisville Kings for most of the season, and it felt like every time they would get ahead, they would find a way to just absolutely fumble the ball. And I was shocked, truly shocked, when they beat the DC Defenders. I don't know, when people crap on the CFL, I just point a finger towards the UFL now and I go, now that's a lesser league. That's the type of league where I've been watching the telecast and I can recognize fan faces in the crowd because there are so few fans that they have to go to the same people over and over again. And I'm just noticing the exact same people popping up each time. I will say, I don't want the UFL to go down. I think that it is good to have another spring league football organization. I think that, especially when, for a long time, the only spring football that you could watch is indoor football. And that is definitely a lesser game. I mean, impressive to the people that can play it. I think it'd be a fun game to watch live. I think that it would be kind of like lacrosse in a lot of ways, where I'm not going to watch it on TV, but if I was there live, yeah, I'd go watch it, and it looks like fun. But I think that, again, it comes down to the atmosphere that's in the room. Yeah, like we were talking about, the CFL preseason, only game this weekend was the Riders and the Stamps. Ended up being 20-15. I think it was a good showing for a lot of the rookies that have been added to both rosters. I think that Saskatchewan, they did a pretty good job with their like deep field coverage. They got a pick right away, which I thought was pretty impressive. It was also another lobbed ball. Like I said, that touchdown pass I was talking about earlier, how there was that interception right before. This is the one I was talking about. It felt like there was so much hang time that the safety was able to get underneath it, catch it right away. This is kind of going to be difficult for the first few weeks until I get into the groove of things, but I appreciate that you're listening, and I appreciate that you're tuned in. I'm super excited to say that I've got a great guest coming up here in the next little bit, and I'm going to try and get guests that are going to have a different perspective on the league. I want to hear from guys that are the legends, but I also want to hear from the new guys. I want to hear from guys that have made the CFL and then went on to other leagues. I want to hear from guys that maybe didn't even have a huge impact on their team, but I want to hear their perspective too, because I think that all of that is what makes up the league. So we're going to be back with an interview in just a minute. Hey, you're listening to this right now. This is the 65 Wide Podcast. My name is Spencer Streichert, and guess what? This little section here is where an ad break will go. If you'd like to sponsor 65 Wide Pod, give me an email, 65widepodcast@gmail.com. We could discuss where your ad could go. Maybe you want to just sponsor one episode. Maybe you want to sponsor the whole season. Whatever you want to do, right here is where the ad will go, and it will sound fantastic. You will get so many sales from my hundreds of listeners. It will be amazing. So, if you want to sponsor the pod, that email again is 65widepodcast@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let's discuss it. Now, let's get back to the interview. I am so excited to welcome my guest today. You've read the title. You know what this is all about. He's won 2 Grey Cups with the Calgary Stampeders. He's a 5-time Dave Dryburgh award winner, and 5 times he's been named a CFL All-Star with 629 field goals in his career for a total of 2,416 points. Please welcome our very first guest ever, number 30 himself, Mr. Rene Paredes. Rene, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty glad I'm the first player to be joining your podcast, so pretty honored.
Man, I wouldn't have it any other way. I've been a huge fan of you since I was like literally my last year of high school. Like when it would have been 2012, I really started following the Stamps, and it was the perfect time to start following the Stamps too. Most Stamps fans, I think, when we think about you, we're thinking about the 2013 season. You beat Paul McCallum's record of consecutive field goals. You ended up getting 39, finished the year with 94% conversion rate, making 54 out of 57 attempts. I mean, that is absolutely bonkers. Did that kind of streak, did the pressure leading up to that moment, did you feel it as pressure, or did that kind of fuel you in a way?
It can a little bit of both. You start the season knowing that you're in a small streak from the previous year. People bring it up, and I'm like, oh shoot, I did not know. I think when we started the season in 2013, I was at 18 in a row, something like that. So they told me, I knew I was halfway there. I was just in the groove that year, I guess. I've had 6 or 7 seasons over 90% out of 15 seasons, which is actually pretty good, which I'm pretty proud of. That's my target every year, go over 90. That year, I don't know. Maybe I was, a little motivated because I know I was close. Who knows? I mean, I got into 30 in a row a couple times. It's super, super hard to do. You got to have some good luck, a couple short field goals here and there, and you get there, right? So I think the last time I was on the streak was 2017. I think I hit 31 or 32 in a row. What sucks about this is that 2013, the one I missed was a 21-yarder.
Oh.
It was at the Sky Dome. The ball went straight, and he's faded out. So the dome usually does that to the kicks. I was pretty upset because I think I went 15 in a row after that, so I could have killed that record. But it is what it is. Super satisfied with my career, and you saying that you're in high school in 2012 makes me a little old. So.
Well, speaking of that, because it's funny, because like you mentioned that you're like, yeah, like makes you feel a little old, but I mean, I feel like it's weird to say that having watched your entire career, and I know that there's a lot of fans that are like me that are in that position where it's like we've seen your career, we've kind of grown up with this era of the Stamps. You've been a part of the organization for 15 years. This is now going to be number 16, which is incredible. And I wanted to know what was something about this year's like roster that sets it apart in your mind from previous years? I mean, I know you're in the middle of training camp right now. There's lots of stuff that changes, but is there anything that's been like really standing out to you as like this is setting the pace?
Yeah, I think last year what Dave Dickinson did was amazing. We brought a new quarterback. We made a lot of changes, and the culture in the locker room was completely different from the past 2 years where we had two losing seasons. I think the biggest thing is bringing those vets that like Vern Adams, who's he's amazing, man. He's a great quarterback, great leader. People want to play for him, right? Nothing bad to say about Jake, but he's bringing in a different type of mentality to the quarterback position. So people follow that, and all the on the defensive side, we had a lot of rookies last year, and I think we're top three in the league on defense. Everybody's back on that side. So far, our defense is looking pretty good in training camp. As long as we have a good defense, our QB is playing well, stays healthy, we could make a run. So there's a lot of excitement in the locker room right now. I think we're day 5 of camp, and it's going in the right direction.
Well, and it's interesting that you're pointing out about having a good quarterback and a veteran quarterback come into the room and how that changes everything. Do you feel, as somebody that is now that veteran player though on the team, do you find that you're often taking these rookies in and mentoring them in a way, or like is that something that kind of comes natural to you? Because I know you're also a dad, so it's kind of like it's that like, oh, do I want to dad this guy, or does this guy need to figure it out on his own?
No, well, I lead by example, right? I'm a kicker. I try not to do the hurrah hurrah stuff. I let the other guys do that. But I've talked to many guys, and there's a lot of guys who looked up to me. Obviously, being in the league for so long, it's not easy. They come for advice. They watch what I do. I try to help as much as I can. I can't help the receivers. I could catch a ball, but I don't know anything about offense. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of people have a lot of respect for me, obviously, because I've been here for so long. And last year when we were in that little slump, we had a players only meetings, and I was one of the guys who talked. And I realized that people listen and people respect what I've done in my CFL career. So I try to lead by example. If anybody needs help, I'm always there.
When you talk about getting out of a slump and having those players only meetings, like those are things that I feel like with experience is the only way that you can have the words to help somebody through that. But what's like your number one thing if you think about, being in a slump and as a team? Because I know in a lot of individual sports, it's hard enough to get out of a slump. But as soon as you have that team element, how do you stop it from being like putting it on other people and more of like a let's come together moment? How does that thought process work in order to, I guess, vocalize that to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, those type of things in a long CFL season is going to happen, right? Last year we started off great. We had a winning record, but I think we were first place for a bit. We lost 4 in a row. We talked about being going back of what we're doing right at that time, putting all the individual stuff away and come together as a team because we knew what we could do, right? We knew if we stuck together, we'll have a great season. Sometimes when you lose, they start arguments start in the locker room. We stuck together the whole time. We had a great locker room last year. This year we do have another great locker room. Our locker room is pretty similar to the Grey Cup wins. We're super close. People want to play for each other, and we have one goal in mind: is win the Grey Cup in Calgary. And we're working hard, man. The guys are working hard in training camp. People are motivated to hoist that trophy in our house. So we're definitely gonna fight hard for it. Anything could happen, but our number one goal is to be in Calgary November 16th. 15, whenever that is.
You know what? They'll let you know when the date is because you guys are probably going to be there. I have faith in it. I want to talk about this for a second because speaking about your kicking journey, because I know a lot of guys that are kickers nowadays, oftentimes they grew up playing soccer and
Right.
there's a lot of that sort of thing. But you're also somebody that's a dual threat. You can kick, you can punt. First off, did you play soccer growing up? And my second question is, did you play any other positions in football, or were you always like, I'm gonna be a kicker?
Yeah, I played soccer since I started walking. Yeah, I played soccer my whole life. I started playing football in high school my junior year when I was in Florida. The way it started is they started a new football team in my high school, and the head coach came up and like we need a kicker. Anybody wants to volunteer? For some reason, the whole team pointed at me. I said no at first. Thought about it for a couple months, and then springtime came around. Spring camp came around, and I was like, you know what? Let's go try it out. That's when I realized that we had something going there. So I've been kicking since I was 17, I believe, 16, 17. Went to Concordia, played 4 years, and then I got here in 2011.
That's
So
amazing.
I've been playing pro longer than I've been kicking.
That's crazy. That's also
Yeah.
like got to be wild. 17 years old going and starting and then going into university ball and then going into the CFL right away. That's
Yeah,
got to
it's insane. You know, I was pretty polished somehow. Jerry McGrath, he was the head coach at Concordia. He used to be a punter in the CFL, so he helped me out a lot. What really helped me, what changed my career was after the 2011 year. I was working with Don Sweet, former CFL, played 13 years with Montreal. He coached me he's been, he stopped coaching me probably like 2016, 2017. So I was with him for 4 or 5 years. I think that's when my career turned around. He really gave me some advice that till this day I use, and that's when my kicking journey I think went off. Right, so it doesn't matter who you are, man. You need some type of advice, some coaching, and Don Sweet is the guy who really changed my career.
Well, and it's interesting that like it happened like into your professional career where you got
Yeah,
that guidance because there's so many people that I think try to like and I mean I'm generalizing here a little bit, but I notice it not just in sports but in the arts as well. When you get to a certain level, people want to stop learning. They think that they know everything and then
right.
you see them hit a wall and so it's cool to hear that not only did you not do that, you were like, I want to go the opposite direction and I want to see just how good I can get at this.
100%. Yeah,
Well,
it worked out. My goal when I'm done is to coach kids, high school, university kids. I do have my Paredes Kicking Academy. It's slowly coming together. I do a couple one-on-ones, and I teach everything I know. So that's one thing that growing up when I started kicking, I didn't have any guidance, right? So now kickers, especially in the States, there's a bunch of camps that you could go to, and there's a lot of people attending them. So that's probably one of the reasons why the kickers are so good right now.
that was another thing that I wanted to bring up. This is kind of like this worked so well into my next question because you start this kicking academy. How much of like how much has that made an impact on your playing? Because I know for myself, as soon as I started teaching kids acting, it made me a better actor because all of a
Right.
sudden I had to break things down back to the basics that I was like at a certain point to explain it to them. Is that something that you found like when you're in these instructor positions, these coaching positions, how much does that impact how you're now approaching the game?
Oh, definitely. I think I agree with you. The little things that you forget sometimes that when you're kicking, you coach them to the kids, and then you're like, oh shoot, maybe I should go back and if I'm in a slump or not kicking the ball well, make sure to do those little things, and it definitely reminds me to keep those things on top.
I want to mention this before we wrap up here. I got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
And this one so on your Wikipedia it says that you attended the Winnipeg Blue Bombers training camp before you returned for your final year at university. Do you ever think about how much different things would have been if you had went and played for a bad team?
So the Wikipedia, it's wrong.
It's wrong?
I was never in Winnipeg. I was never in Winnipeg in 2010. I was Winnipeg 2011,
Okay.
and for training camp, and then I got cut in training camp, and then I was here week 2. I actually told our communications guy, they've had it on the website that I was there in 2010. 2010, I was still in university. I have no clue where they got that from. Yeah, my career started in 2011 in Winnipeg. I got cut after training camp, and then I came to Calgary.
Anytime I read anything on Wikipedia, I always have to double check it with the person that I'm talking to
Yeah,
because
definitely. I mean, I
that's
think anybody could add stuff in there, right? So,
a hundred
um,
percent. I
yeah,
got into a beef with a pop country singer last year, and I changed his entire Wikipedia to be about how he was in love with me. So I mean, anybody can change anything about anyone on Wikipedia. Heading into this year, and this is like I guess my last two questions. They're two different questions, but the first one is who is somebody on this roster that's new that you don't think is getting as much attention as they should be because they're like because of their play style? Like who's the playmaker that is underrated right now?
Oh man, that's really hard to say. There's a couple of reasons why. I don't know anybody in the locker room right now very well. I don't watch practice that closely either. So I know the linebacker Roscoe, our first overall pick that we did this year, I think he's looking pretty good. So I'll probably say him for now. He's gonna be forwards on special teams, which is huge in the CFL. You gotta have a good Canadian core. So I'm really excited about Tariq or McAllister, our returner. He used to be in Hamilton. He's with us now. He was scary when he was Hamilton, so I'm excited to have an actual returner this year in our team. Last year we had multiple guys returning. We didn't have an actual returner, so hopefully that helps us out on special teams. And offense, defense, you have our guys. Philpott is going to go crazy. Hopefully, Reggie Begelton, when he's back from injury, I know he's working hard to come back and have a great season. So all our defensive backs are second-year guys, and they're looking pretty good right now. So I'm pretty excited about overall our team.
Yeah, it looks like honestly, I mean I've been following pretty heavily and watching the updates to the roster and all the guys who are still here. I'm like, this looks like a fun team to watch. My last question, and I've said that 3 times, but this
Yeah.
actually is the last question. I know that this season hasn't started, but in 2024 you signed a 2-year extension with the Stamps. Do you have plans to sign again for another extension at the end of the year, or is 2026 going to be the cap on an insane career?
I wish I could answer that question for you right now. I really don't know, man. As you guys, I don't know if you know, I work for DKI Calgary. It's a restoration company. I'm a business development and marketing. I've been here for a year and a half. That's my job for after football. At the same time, I got to see how I feel at the end of the year. So if I do retire this year, I'll have an announcement before the season ends. If you don't hear anything, most likely I'll come back. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, well, we're gonna hope that we hear nothing before the end of the year. Then, as Stamps fans, we gotta hope that we hear nothing before the end of the year.
Appreciate it.
But
We'll see what happens. I've been saying for the past 3 years this is my last year, but people don't believe me anymore. So we'll see.
one
We'll
day,
see.
one day they're just gonna look around and be like, "Where did he go?"
Yeah, 100%. I haven't made a decision, to be honest. I'm hoping to have a decision by towards the end of the season.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your time with me today and chatting ball. This has been a lot of fun. It's good to finally connect with you. I know we've been connecting on social media, but
Yeah,
it's nice to have an actual conversation. And man, I really hope to see you at the Grey Cup this year.
same here, man. Thanks for everything. Thanks for having me on, and great chatting with you.